Awesome. Well, thanks so much for helping. I'm really looking forward to understanding a little bit better the history of American brokers and how they impact investors.
Right.
So I asked to start, could you share a story about the first time you invested in the stock market?
It was the first time. And it was Edwards. And I went in, talked to the guys. They were, I was comfortable with them. We did some investing, and they were always quite thorough and specific. We don't know if this is going to go up or down, but we think this is probably something that'll work, et cetera, et cetera. So I broke my leg playing softball. I slid into third base into a guy who was a linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles. He didn't move, and but my leg did. So I'm lying there. I've got nothing to do. I can't get up because if I put my leg over the side, it's gonna stab me to death. And so they had a channel there in Fort Worth, and they had the stock market. So I've watched this for a few days, and we had pretty much invested most of what I wanted to invest, and I was satisfied with what we had. But then I saw this. I was watching, and it had a bulletin,
A bulletin?
and the basic idea was that UPS was going to buy overnight transportation.
Mm.
I called the broker immediately. I said, "Look, this thing is going to go through the roof." And he says, "Well, we're not sure." And I said, "I don't know." So we were discussing whether or not I should trade it, sell something to buy this new deal. And he says, "We'll probably stick with what we got here. I think we'd be better off." So 30 minutes later, I talked to him. I says, "Oh, it's up $12 now. What do you think is going to happen next?" he, he says, "Well, we probably couldn't have got out in time anyway." He says, but I think one of his buddies told me that they had heard the talk, and then they jumped on it. They thought it was going to be a good thing too, but I didn't have any cash to buy, so I couldn't complain too much. But anyway, I had another good one.
Wow, so you called the broker and told them about the stock, and what was it at when you called them originally, what was the price?
Uh, I don't remember what the price was, but I remember very clearly how fast it was. Hold on a minute, and I'll see if I can find it. I looked this up on Wikipedia. The overnight leap is what they call it. Ah, yes, here
Oh,
we go. Shares of Overnight Corp leapt 44% on Monday after Parcel agreed to buy the shipping. It rose from 12.94 to 42.52.
oh my gosh.
Yes. And UPS even went up. It just went up. It went from 103 to $73. So
Wow.
I didn't even pick the best one. I should have told him to buy UPS. Wow. Transition price is $43 a share. It's expected to close in the third quarter. It's been approved by everybody. And in fact, it did do that. And they went on and they were sold again and again. And and they're still, I think, in business as let's see, I got the article here.
So you heard
Where that
about this news beforehand through the bulletin?
You're fading out.
So you heard the news beforehand through the bulletin?
Sorry.
You heard about the merger through the bulletin beforehand?
No, I no. What I was when I was watching the TV, all they said was that UPS was going to buy them,
Hmm?
and that was enough to send things starting off. I don't know how quickly it went up. They didn't follow it, but the Market Watch people, uh, which is the website I'm looking at, headline was overnight leaps on $1.25 billion UPS buy. Well, I thought 1.25 billion is certainly going to get some attention, and it did. 44%.
Wow. So you called your broker after you saw that, you called Edwards and told them to buy it. And they wouldn't.
No, no, because he says, well, what do you want to sell to buy? And well, I don't really want to sell anything, this could all disappear overnight or something, and the stuff we have is good, so I don't know if I want to sell it or not. And he says, well, what you've got's good if if you don't want to get out of that, then there isn't any way we can get this. So it was my decision to not buy it, but it wasn't because I didn't want to buy it. I just didn't have any money.
Uh, but then the broker bought it on. They had their friends, and they all bought it.
Yes, I think they all bought it. I don't really know if they all bought it or not, but the next time I went in there, they all said, "Oh boy, thanks for that." They were all good. They were good guys. I enjoyed working with them. But I had another one
Uh-huh.
that I thought I found later on. I had been watching. I've been looking into warrants. I wanted to buy some warrants, and so I was just checking the list. And for the life of me, I cannot remember the name of the company. I've tried and tried, but it's gone. But in any event, it was a company that was the work the info that I got was that it's a company you don't want to screw around with. That's a company out in Las Vegas, and it's quite suspect. It's a gambling thing, but they did have a warrant. Their warrant was to buy the stock at $12. So I called him up and I said, "Look, this I don't know." I said, I want to sell the warrants." He said, "What do you mean sell?" I said, "I want you to borrow them and sell them because I'll never have to pay them back because this company is gonna go tank and nobody's gonna want a warrant for $12."
So you
And
wanted to short it.
yeah, well, I guess that would be best effectively what it was. So we decided it was too shaky and not worth selling the stuff I had again. So, and I will say, by the way, that all the stuff we bought, I've still got, and it's still good. So we had the right track. And so anyway, I kept watching, and sure enough, the yeah, I think they took it off the market. I don't know if that would have affected this thing, but in any event, they went back. They went broken out of business, and of course, nobody ever paid for the warrants. I wouldn't think so. Anyway, it would have been a free deal. I think some of them might have invested a little in that too. But my short uh, two stock deal was unfortunate, but well, not unfortunately, because really it hasn't been bad. But the worst thing that ever happened in the stock market was my wife, who later in life, after we left Fort Worth, we went to DC, and she got into the real estate business, and she's very good at it. She started bringing in some returns, and we were deciding, and we set her up an IRA and put her money in because I could provide for the family, so it was going to be gravy, hopefully. And she had $3,000 or $4,000, I think, or something after her first deal. So we were discussing, how we're going to work, what we're going to put in the IRA and all that stuff. And we had enough money to buy one share of guess who in the Midwest. I've never heard the end of this, baby. I said, oh no, we have to diversify.
No
So
Berkshire.
no Berkshire. And we did diversify, and it's all worked out quite well. She's actually she's got a ton of money now. She was a very good person. She worked 4 years, and we bought a lot of good stuff along the way. Probably the best one, we paid $10 a share for her real estate firm when they went public, and it's now worth $6,000 a share, or maybe higher than that now. That was I can't even remember the name of her company now. It's hell to get old. That's the Long and Foster. That's what it was. They went public when we were there early on. So that all worked well. And that and the IRA, we bought some of the companies. I can't. Sorry.
It sounds like a lot of prudent investments.
Yes, well, it was the mutual funds, and we picked some good ones, and now they're really paying off too. So we've had a good run with the stock market. It's been very, very good to us, and I'd recommend it for anybody. But I don't know if you could be as lucky as we were, because we didn't know what we were doing, and we still made a lot of money. So I wish that for your other investors.
So it sounds like certainly you had a good bit of fortune finding that one real estate company that went from 10 to over 6,000 net. What was it?
We had
Yeah.
also bought another company you might have heard of, Amazon. It's done pretty well. I mean, this was back in the '80s, so we've had them a long time, and we got in cheap on them. And I think the other one we had that's done well is well, I can think of it in 15 minutes, but you might not want to wait that long.
Wow. No, go take your time. That's incredible. Do you always hold them the whole time? Is there any pressure to move things around?
No, because we don't have realtors. We do our own realtors. We figured after our incidents in Edwards, we'd go on and do better on our own than we have, except, of course, for the blacklist. on Berkshire.
Yeah, that is a shame.
I should have. I told her we should short Berkshire. Oh God! It's funny. The funny thing that wasn't funny was my leg. I'm telling you that the leg thing was a killer, but it was really fun to sit there and watch them rotate through and all that. I really got interested in it. It was, but I didn't have, it was nothing I was going to do. I wanted to fly those airplanes. At least I knew what was going to happen with them. They would go up and they would go down, usually in one piece. So that's what I wanted to do.
What was the killer? Was it just Berkshire?
Berkshire was the one. Yes, we had enough to buy one share. I think it was 1,000 or something a share at the time, and I don't know what it is now, but it was nothing back then because we didn't have much. So, but anyway, it was the first thing she wanted to buy, so she was quite right. And I'm still reminded of this every once in a while. When we were discussing what to do with and what to sell. So it's been a great ride, and we're quite comfortable, and we had a great road ride on the Air Force. It was a wonderful life we've had, and you know that because you've been around too and seen it.
So obviously you've had a number of really incredible winners. How did you learn about like the Amazon, for instance? Was it through the broker? Was it through the mutual fund, or was it your own research?
No, it was just no. There was no head start on it. We didn't buy it till sometime later. Yeah, I was trying to think of anything else we might have done well. I will say this: Long and Foster, after we bought their stock, went bankrupt, and I didn't. I have to tell you the real secret now, so you don't think we were wonderful. We did a 10-for-1 reverse split. So it is worth $6,000 a share, but we don't have $600,000. So there you go. See, I'm an honest sort of broker here. But it was good. I knew the people that were running it, and I had written a program for them to change how they used the computer that they had set up to look for the real estate buys. The information on each one and all that. And but the way they were doing it was just prehistoric because they could not call or compare with the thing more than one at a time or two, and it took them forever to look up all these things they wanted to look at. And I made them a program that they could put on it and just say, I want the houses around 614 Georgetown or whatever, and it would bring them up. But they had, until then, they had to do it the other way. So it saved them a lot of time, and it was interesting to get done. And the people that we worked with were great. I was confident they were going to come back because the market there was incredible. We had tried to buy a house, and when we came back from our overseas tour in the Philippines, we were given a leave time to come back and try to find because they were transferring me to Washington. And we went back and got a realtor, took us out to look around to buy a house. Well, the question was, would we buy or would we rent? We had always lived on base. We never owned a house or anything else. And so we went and she drove us around and we looked at the houses, and the houses were incredibly expensive in the DC area. So I said, we're not gonna swing this. It's too much money, so we're just gonna rent. And she says, okay, well, I'm sorry we couldn't find what you needed. So we're driving down the road back to the airport, or back from the country where we had houses, you could afford, but then you were 5 miles away, and that was not good and all. But in any event, and we see a trailer beside the road, and there's a bulldozer there scraping out a street, and there's a trailer there. And she said, what's this? So why don't we check this out? And I said, sure, why not? We got another 20 minutes before we have to take off, so we got plenty of time. So she laughed, and then she says, okay, let's see what he says. So we go in, and the guy says, yep, there's going to be 28 houses. It's on a cul-de-sac, so there won't be any through traffic and all that. Your kids and your animals will be safe. Everything's going to be wonderful. I said, oh, how much, what's it going to cost? And we wanted a colonial, so we looked at it, what it was, and he said, it's going to be $92,000. Well, that was, I said, that's not going to work. So he says, wait a minute, why don't you give me $1,000? Well, I looked at this guy, I looked at him sitting in the trailer in his overalls and a piece of dirt going down the road, and I'm thinking, give him $1,000. That may not be anything here when I come back. And the realtor read my mind. She says, don't worry. She says, I keep the $1,000. He doesn't get to take it. So you can get your money back. You're not satisfied when you came back. So we went home. We went back to the Philippines, and we came back, and we went down to pick up our $1,000. And the guy was on the phone when I went in the trailer, and Cindy was waiting in the car, and I picked up one of the portfolios, and our house had been built, and it was there. It looked great, and we thought, it's too bad. It's so expensive. And then he said, and then I looked at the price. The price was $120,000. I went back out. I said, Cindy, we're going to closure. I don't know how long we'll have the house, but at least we're going to get that house. We lived there for years, and it was fun. It was a good place to live. But that was what the market was like there in that time. So, the guy came down to the house, and he said, after we'd been there, and we moved in, of course, and all the other houses were still being sold. And the owner came down and said, Cindy, he said, you are such a wonderful person, and she is. Says, you have sold 10 of these houses for me by expressing your good opinion of our house. And I can't tell you how I appreciate it. I said, but you should go get your real estate license. If you can do this, with the rest of these houses, you can make 50,000 or something, whatever, So she thought about that, and she's a people person. And she was driving down the street, and there was an office that said, realtors wanted, come on in. So she went in and she got her license and she started selling houses. And boy, did she sell them. And it was, I basically went to work for her. I did the bookkeeping and keeping up with the tax stuff and all the good things you have to do. I was the office boy. And I had the time to get
Office
it
boy.
together. Yeah. And it was a good time. And I got my license after I retired,
Huh?
and that was kind of scary because I went uh, to take the license, and I took the license and a test, and I got up and left, and nobody else was leaving, and I thought that's kind of strange. So I got home and I told Cindy this, and Cindy says, "Did you do part two?" I said, "What part two?" She said, "Oh my God, you didn't finish the test." Except the next day we got a note that said we passed. So I guess I did
Oh my
what I was
gosh, really?
Yeah, maybe there was no part two anymore. She had taken it some time before me. So anyway, so
Very
that's
thorough
when.
examination.
Well, it worked out well because after I retired, I did the open houses for her. She didn't, want to sit out there by herself. No, that wasn't the greatest place in the world to do that, and so I was glad to do that. And but she went all over within 20 or 30 miles because people wanted to go out far where it was cheaper if they couldn't afford to do it in close where they wanted to be, of course. So she was driving all over the place. This was before GPS. She was just driving that car out there, and every once in a while she'd call me and says, "I'm here with this intersection. Where the heck am I? How do I go from here? In which way?" So I give her the directions on what to be. I was her live GPS straight from the house.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a great thing. We had. You tell me if that's enough. I don't know what
It
your
sounds
objective
like
is.
you've had a lot of experience in the real estate space too. Would you say
Well,
most of your portfolios come from the real estate, or is it more the stock market?
it's that's a good question. I have never even approached it from how much did we invest and how much have we got now. It's we always looked at it more individually, so I don't even know the answer to that. But I know that everything we have bought is more than we pay for it. We've not lost money on anything. But that's just the U.S. market, If you unless you make some really terrible decisions, like buy a warrant that you can buy a stock that's going under for $12, and that's not a good deal. So, so I think it was a combination of things. But when I went in the military, I had them take $100 out of my pay every month and invest it in what was the first one we did. And thinking is something I don't do very well now, so I can't
You're
think.
good.
I can't remember the name of it, but it was one of the ones that advertised all the time.
So there's a company.
Yeah, and it was. I just cashed their check for her distribution on it. Let's see. she had an IRA with them. Bergstrom, that's something like that. Newberger Berman, I think it was. And anyway, they had some rough times, but they've come back strong, and so we're on the right side of that one too. They had a little downflow for a while there, and we have never sold the stock that we bought, except to put money that we had to add into the. We don't usually let cash sit in our stuff, so we have to every year sell something to provide the money for them to hand out the IRA.
And the IRA, yeah.
Yeah. So that's about the only time we sell things. Like I say, we went through that we went through a bankruptcy, and boy, did that work out well. So we sort of been looking at bankruptcies with an eye to see how they're coming back and all. But sometimes you get a good one, and some of those work out. But we did not rotate it or do. We were, like I say, we never sold one except when we had to get money to put the cash into the account. So that's a pretty good statement, I think, for where we stood on that. Our account is with Merrill Lynch, is where we keep our goods now, and the IRAs, except for are all there, except for the mutual fund ones. So we actually have 3 IRA payments each season. So I have managed to keep up with that, though it's been a close call on some of it because I'm still the stock boy here in the computer room keeping track of it. We haven't had any serious things. We've had a few funny things. We had, if you're interested in just a little personal thing, we had a couple that came over from Germany. We did have a good number of folks who from the military, both in the Air Force and because they knew of our Air Force. We told them, we've done the military thing. We know what you're up against. Just let us take care of you, and they do. And so a couple came over, and we took them around, and we sold them a house. And they were getting ready to go back to Germany. And of course, we always took care of our people, and so let me be honest. We hate to drive in DC. Pang! It's the worst damn thing in the world, especially when you have to go from Virginia side all the way over to the airport up in Dulles or someplace out in the woods.
Yeah.
So we'd rent them limo to take them out. But this one couple had come, and they were really good people. We had a lot of fun with them, and we sold them a house, and we told them we'd take them over to Baltimore, which they were leaving from Baltimore. And of course, we did not want to make that round trip because they were taking off at 5 o'clock, which means death trying to get around the park there. So we had a Corvette. I drove the Corvette. Cindy drove the Cadillac. And So I said, let me take care of this. So she said, okay. So I drove over to the car in my Corvette, told them, we're ready to go. You want to get in? We're going to go over to the airport. And they looked at me like I was crazy because they had bags. And there were three of us, and there's only two seats, obviously. And they were getting very nervous. I says, "Oh no, don't worry about it. So you can sit on the armrest in the middle, and everything will be cool." Buzz right on over there. But she said, "How about a bag of that?" I said, "I got a ski rack in the back. We'll put them on the ski rack." And they were looking so distressed, I couldn't pick on them any longer. And I gave the wave, and the limo came driving up. And of course, they were happy about that. They called us on the way to the airport. Said, "You're going to get a lot of business from here, from Germany." And she was right. It's good to have satisfied customers. But then there's the other side. For your friends that are listening, she also, Cindy is a very good person. She is also she doesn't like people who just can't make a decision. And it is hard. We knew how hard it was to make the decisions, but at some point you gotta decide: are you gonna buy one, or you've got one, and then you decided you're gonna buy one. Now, which one's it gonna be? Okay, and this guy had looked at 20 some houses, and they were out in west of DC in the one of the big developments out there, and he Cindy finally ran out of gas, and she stopped the car and said, "Get out of the car. We're not going to look at any more houses." He says, "I can't get out of here. There's nothing out here." He says, "You're not going any further in this car. You're going to make up your mind, or else you stay here on the street." He said, "Okay, I'll take that one." He went and wrote the contract. It pushed him over the edge. So there was the good side and the bad side, but mostly it was good. But there was some really funny stuff that goes on in the real estate business, and she learned that you just don't take anything for granted. No matter, doesn't matter what somebody tells you. You just operate on the I'm going to pursue this and get this done, and don't give it any second thoughts. You either want to do it or you don't want to do it. And if you decide you want to do it, you have to stay on it every day, because there's always someone who says, "Oh, did you buy a house?" And I don't know. Geez, there's another one around the street. There's always some glitch that can occur. Not to mention, not the least of which is another realtor who would slip in at night and try to sign up the person you'd gotten there. And
Really?
she got a phone call from a seller. Said, "There's another guy here who wants to buy the house and all that." And so this is 1 o'clock in the morning. So Cindy jumps out of bed, runs down the steps to the car, and then I noticed that the car had started, but I hadn't heard the garage door go up. And sure enough, she backed right into it. She was on the move, but fortunately, she could still drive. So she went over and explained the rules of real estate to the other agent, and the other agents decided they probably wouldn't screw up with this thing because they might get sued.
Come in and do an inspection.
Okay.
So you have to be
Thanks.
strong, but you need to be honest if you're in the real estate business. It pays in the end, because she got awards and all that sort of stuff, but she's a good at everything she does. She was great in the Air Force. She ran everything in the Air Force. Wherever we went on base, she would usually end up president of the wives club that we had on bases for to help
Okay, I was
their
just taking
husbands
Oh,
and to do good things for good
No, you're
people.
good.
So it's been quite a ride. Now we sit with our Tesla and listen how quiet it is. It's fun.
Wow.
I hope I've given. I don't know if any of
Yeah.
this is any good.
It
but
sounds like you have a lot of experience on the real estate side from even being part of the industry as a broker or with your license at least. What about in
sorry,
terms
you're
of
fading
dealing?
out. You're fading out, Jack. I can't hear you.
How about that? Do you have any interesting stories with a real estate broker?
Yes, now I can hear you. Start over.
Okay. How about any interesting? Did you ever have anything interesting happen with a real estate broker?
With the broker? Oh, yes. Well, most of those I don't think are fit for public.
Thank you. Have a good day. No, you're good.
She
You're
was
good.
lucky. She worked for two very good people. So she never had any trouble with anybody because she didn't do anything except straightforward stuff. There were some people that they come and go that came and tried to pull funny stuff on other people's things and so forth, and they always got mad about that, and they got fired. But as far as overall, all of the brokers were nice people, and they give lunches for their agents and give rewards and all that stuff. It was up, upright, clean running, and I think A.G. Edwards probably was too. But but we still had our fun with them. But there are some crooks out there. There's no doubt about it. But the tests that they give are to get the license are good, and the system they have now to analyze the markets is so much better than what we had before. And so there's progress being made, but we hit the prime market when we went to Washington D.C. and again got a tremendous news. We sold the house eventually for $415,000. So we paid a lot of taxes and and we rented it some too when we got transferred out. So we had it as a home as a rental, and we had a couple of condos we bought for the kids so they could live there and pay us rent. But the free lunch in the Wooten family.
That's right.
Nobody knows that better than Jack.
There were some crooks on the buy side.
Say again.
There were some crooks when you were a buyer.
They were people who, yes, they were people who would actually go look at the houses, who had no interest in buying the house, but had interest in seeing what's in the house. That might enjoy having themselves at a later time of life. And some of the people, Cindy didn't like people she didn't know coming in and running around the house because she was interested in being sure they didn't steal something. So people don't like it when they, sort of trying them around. But she said, I'm sorry, I got to do this. I'm responsible for this house today. And, I'm sorry. You just have to look with me. It's fine. And almost everybody says, it's cool. Nobody ever left because of that. But she was very happy not to do that anymore. And I was too. But mostly it was its driving directions that I got most use for. She got more out of that for me than anything else.
Mm. And was there anything about that plot of land with one broker?
She was very straightforward. Yeah, she was as you would expect, want to be sure that we had an opportunity to buy the house. She liked it. She would like it. She tried hard to find us something that we could afford. We thought we could afford, and and Cindy did the same thing for the same people for the same reasons. It's just it's hard to do and make a decision and all the bucks and all that. So I think you have to have a personality that isn't unique, but which is a good person overall. Honesty is the best policy. Don't try to mess around. You never get away with it, practically speaking. And if you do, there are going to be repercussions anyway. But we did not have any lawsuits in all the work she did. And in fact, they were quite rare. But some of the brokers would have a scuffle now and then, like as it was with the sneaking in behind Cindy at night, and the seller wasn't going to let him get away with that. So it's a tough game, but it can be very, you can make some real money with it. And the only drawback we had was the open houses, which she just didn't like. But I don't think in any of the years she worked there, I don't believe we had a single agent have a problem with somebody coming in and messing around with the house. So it was something that gets a lot of publicity when it happens, but it just doesn't happen that often, at least as far as we were concerned. Of course, maybe that's because I was there some of the time, and but I don't think I'm a particularly threatening person at 150 pounds. So. They could have caught me on the head and taken what they wanted if they really wanted to do it. But,
Oh my gosh.
so she would recommend it too, but you do have to have a personality, an outgoing personality to do it well, I think. And she had that in spades, of course. But by her record, she's well, she has 2 IRAs, and so you can imagine. And Jack's, we're just working with Jack's money now. He's driving the Corvette now too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe if he hasn't sold it
yet. It sounds, yeah, definitely a lot of experience there and a lot of buy and hold investing. How has technology and the internet changed how you interact with brokers?
I'd say it's probably increased the contact between the brokers.
Increase the
Because if the
contact?
broker sees if he sees a house he thinks a guy would like, a broker can call over and talk to the guy about the house and save himself a trip over there maybe. and so you can find out the details, more details than are in the listing usually. So there is communication on things when they see something like that. They'll call in. The amount of data that's available now is practically overwhelming. Uh, but it's certainly useful. You can find out anything you want about the place. And the home inspections are a good thing. We loved them because it protected us, we thought. So we were happy that they were willing to get a home inspection. There was there's a gas problem in the cellars that happens in the DC area. And sometimes that was kind of tricky. You had to have a test to be sure their gas is not in this basement, and you always held your breath till the results came back, because that would be another thing to deal with.
Wow.
But that's what you do, you deal with it.
Oh my gosh. And what
It's
about, oh, sorry.
it's I think it is a very satisfying thing to do. You help somebody, you get them in, and it isn't every ounce about the money. It's really some of the people you like a lot, some you like to kick the guy out of the car in the dirt. But even he came back, he got back in, and he says, okay, he says, you're right. I think they had been going since 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was getting dark. And he says, you're right. I should bucket down and pick one, and he did. Sometimes dirty work helps.
Wow.
Something. But generally, everybody we work with, were really good people, and they just doing the best they could with what they had. And we wanted them to have everything they could get for their money. That's the thing. Work for the guy, work for him. He's paying you, doing a good job for him. Any other questions?
Were there any specific events or periods during your career that significantly impacted your investing strategy?
That's a good question. I think the answer is no. We considered that when we bought condos for the kids, but generally, no, I don't think we made decisions based on money. We just made them on just whatever it was we were trying to accomplish, and was it going to get accomplished, and was it something we really wanted to do? But we didn't have any trouble making those decisions usually.
What about
Was
decisions?
there was the case with this one share thing. That was our biggest fight.
Was with yeah,
Berkshire.
yeah.
Yeah.
Was it
But
a lot
she,
of individual stocks? Was it a lot of mutual funds? Did you have advisors at the brokers?
there were many people who did use that. A lot of our friends have a person they use as a consultant for this sort of thing. On full time, our daughter has a guy that gives them advice and all that. And I don't know if he's a uh, seller or not. I don't know what it is, but they give him they get advice on taxes and things from from him. But we did it ourselves. We just figured we're smart enough to do it. We'll do it. And we had the money that I'd saved over the years, and she was making it in real estate like crazy. So we didn't have to consider anything except what we wanted to consider. It's a nice position to be in. Most people don't have it, and we didn't have it either till the market took our house sky high and from a level land. It's and nobody can forecast that. But I don't think it. I think it's. There are those who really want to be a realtor and do things that realtors do, which is take care of people. And there are others who don't really care that much about caring for the people. They would rather make some bucks, and they'll do whatever it takes to do that. Fortunately, we don't know anybody like that. Never did. But we heard stories from some of the people we did sell houses for who commented on how their agent was a little pushy. And that's why we were doing it. So it isn't a big factor, I don't think. Eating is the biggest factor. Can I afford to eat?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Cindy enjoyed it because she likes people, but she didn't. The driving around part of it was okay. She didn't mind doing that. We went through cars like crazy, and because she put so many miles on them, and the arrival of the GPS has been a huge boost for the real estate market. For the realtors, now they can go wherever they want. The car can drive them. They don't even have to drive there anymore. Read Tesla. Sort of drive it from there. We still communicate with our teacher. Lives up in New England now. She was a lady. She was something else. She was really something. She was an amazing woman. And we still communicate with her, and she taught Cindy everything she knew. She loved Cindy, and they really got along together well. She was very good, and she ended up doing sales for developments. She could really do that, and so she didn't do the regular real estate anymore. She didn't have to drive around anymore. She just stayed in their office and let the folks come. And but we still communicate with her and our broker and their families. We did a lot of things together, functions, various things, award shows, things, and all that stuff. So it's a nice career, and you can have a lot of fun with it. But it will have its moments, as any career will. There are going to be some days aren't so great. That was the day that I said I didn't want to buy the one share. That's been my big. It was now. I don't remember the bad things anymore, and along with many of the good things too. But I'm a calm person now. I asked him if she still wanted to buy that share of Berkshire. She says, "Oh no." Can't afford it now. It has changed a lot because of the technology. There's no doubt about it, and for the good, I think, because you know now a lot more than you knew before. You had no idea about a lot of things relative the, the neighborhoods, the uh, facilities that are around the area. It's it's good. Anything else?
One last thing. Thanks for sharing everything. What's
Hmm.
been the most surprising or unexpected thing you learned through your investing journey?
Don't sell the bankrupt.
Yeah, what was that going through bankruptcy like? That's so interesting.
It was interesting. Uh, we couldn't believe it because the company, was it had been going. It had had its big days and small days, and they were back in a small time. But then that big time hit just about the time we went back there, and they were on fire, and they went bankrupt. I think because of overinvesting in land. Land costs money if it sits there for a while, and they didn't do the development or didn't have the development stuff ready to go when they got them, and they just went under. But a lot of people bought that stock when it came out because they knew the people that were running it, and sometimes you go bankrupt for a reason, and the reason is to breathe. You lose, but you breathe, and then that's one thing off of you, and then you go back to work without that hanging over your head. And boy, did they ever. And it's, we've never looked much at dividends. We thought the stocks would usually, we look at the stocks and we looked at dividends, and we have a few companies that have started dividends, but dividends are something we never gave a lot of thought about. We're thinking more about it now that we're older, but actually, it isn't a factor for us that much anymore. Some people do invest just for that, of course, but each guy has his own thing or gal that he needs to do. But let's see here, what else? Interest rates affect the way things go, of course, but it is a problem. But it's just another factor you have to consider. And the question of whether you should do what kind of loan should you get is a question. But the lenders could go through that. We had a couple of three lenders that were generally used by the people in our office. And they were all good folks. They worked very hard. But you have to go, it's the same thing as picking an agent. You try to get somebody that you feel confident in and want to work with. It's it's a cold hard thing sometimes, The commercial end of it, of course, is another whole story. We never did the commercial thing, so we don't know much about that. We know that the 1980 Cadillac was a totally worthless car. Cindy got very exasperated with it. The air conditioner didn't work right. You know, this is a big thing that's got to carry people around that you want to impress, not burn up. And so we, the way that ended on the auto thing is our son won, hit a hole in one and won a new Cadillac several years old, new Cadillac. And so we traded him. He gave us the new Cadillac because she needed one. And gave him our old one. And that doesn't have much to do with real estate, but it has something to do with a funny thing. So, and where he lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, he had to park it on the street. And the thing was, shall we say, not in good shape. The tail had airbags underneath the car to raise to keep the car level. Those were gone. One of the cylinders was missing, and it was in. They weren't trying to keep it up. It was just sitting out there, and they use it like a truck. So my son goes out, and the car is gone. And he goes, what? Somebody stole the car. So he goes in, he calls the police and tells them that the car's been stolen. And the guy says, okay, what is it? And he says, it's a black Cadillac sedan. And he says, yeah, we found it already. What do you mean you found it already? He says it was 2 blocks from your house in a parking lot with the doors open and the engine running. And people just left it there. It was, I don't know what happened to the car after that. I'm pretty sure it went to the junkyard.
Wow. It sounds like an incredible journey from routine savings to a story of great growth.
The brokerage thing we didn't really do. We didn't have that much money to begin with. But oh shucks, I just clicked the wrong thing. But anyway, I guess I clicked us off, didn't I?
You're fine. You're all good.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't see anything now, but that doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
So that's it. I think I don't have any great insights into the future, but home ownership, I believe, is still a good deal. We rented our 2 condos, and when we sold our condos, we made big money on the condos. It was amazing. The interest rates are going to affect that probably, but I think depending on who wins the elections,
Yeah, right.
I think things are going to get better. It can't get worse. So it might be, we had never had any inclination to buy a house because we knew we'd be moving around and we didn't want to go to the trouble. And I still think that way. I still think we'd rent if we did it all over again. but it was nice that that agent did the right thing. She done a lot of miles trying to find us a place, and I was very happy that it turned out that way. She earned every penny she got out of that deal, and Cindy has been the same way. Sometimes it just doesn't work, so just write it off and carry on.
Wow, that's incredible. And you'd rent going back if you had to do it again?
We would. We had good, we knew the people that were renting it, and we knew they were good people, so we didn't have any trouble with that. When
Oh,
we
you'd rent
sold
it
the
out?
house, we bought the house in, oh crap, whenever it was, back in I don't know, we'd had it for 10, 15 years, and we sold it to the guy who came by. When we bought it, we bought a warranty on the air conditioner. They came by once a year. You might want to do that. Think about warranties and the effects of warranties for your people. You can get whole house warranties, to fix anything that goes wrong and all sorts of different insurances. But we bought one on this air conditioner because they're the expensive things. If they empty out the fluid of it, that costs a fortune to put them back in. Didn't used to be that way, but it is now. In any event, that paid off big time. Conditions went off, but he did the home inspection and he came back around and he says, "How old is this house?" And I think it was 15 years or something. And this is in front of the person that's buying the house. He said, I believe in it. I never thought I'd ever see it. I said, "Wait a minute." He says, "That air conditioner is still running after all these years. It's amazing." And she got pale. I said, "Don't worry. The policy I have goes through your purchase. You already have an insurance on that. So don't worry about that. As far as I know, it's still running."
Wow. That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your investing journey.
Well, I'm glad to tell you about it. It's a good road if you want to get into it, but you have to pay attention and sort of keep track of what's happening because things change in a hurry these days. But that's easy to do because you got all the facilities in the world now to keep track of things, and instantly things happen and it's on the news right away. So like the deal that we did and didn't do, that came up in an hour, 2 hours. That after that hit the road, things were on the way. So you have to be ready to move. We weren't, but we don't regret it. We're happy with all of our decisions, even someone that weren't so hot, like not buying Berkshire. That always comes up, It'll always be the one that got away. You folks have a nice life. I've bored you to death, but at least you heard a little bit of something useful, I hope. Jack, keep running, man. You're doing a good job. Take care of these folks.
Thank you. Aw. Appreciate it.
See you later.
Of course.
Bye, guys and gals.